Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. We are so excited to have our friend Carolyn C.J. Jones back with us here today. How are you doing, darling?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, you are an amazing person. There's so much to what you do with your grief counseling. You work with people all over the world. She's also a global speaker. She does live conferences. Of course, she can help you out in a business meeting or individual counseling as well. CJ Jones Speaking and Coaching, and it's CarolynCJJones.com. Also, we'll talk about her as an author, the work she's done, and of course, about her coaching. And I know in particular how you can help those with resentment. So let me have you introduce yourself today. How's everything?
Really good, Jill. I am Carolyn C.J. Jones, and I'm a forgiveness expert. I do it through, I work with forgiveness as I instruct at the local college of Marin, and I speak at talks, like you said, and I do individual coaching, and I have some books I've published. This one, The Art of Forgiveness, A Promise of Peace. I apologize, it's backwards, but it won a gold medal for spirituality.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And this book, Opening the Gates of the Heart, Images That Heal and the Stories Behind Them, this won a bronze for spiritual healing.
Wow. Beautiful. Well, we'd love to go in detail more on those books a little bit later. For now, I know today you want to talk a little bit about what you do and how do you help those with resentment. Let's start off by what is resentment? Let's start there.
Okay. Resentment is anger felt over and over and over again. And every time you think of the situation that made you angry to begin with, you get angry again.
Yep.
So it's like you never release that anger and it sticks with you. That's a resentment.
And a lot of us have them from what types of situations? Would you mind sharing? Give us some examples. Some people have resentment from relationships, from divorce, from not getting enough love of a child. I'm sure there's plenty of them.
Those are the ones I was going to mention. Yes. Childhood resentments. So something happened when we were a kid or didn't happen, and we resent our parents or we resent siblings. Those are the pretty common ones. And then we maybe get a resentment against a neighbor or something because they said something, or maybe a coworker, maybe a boss passed you up for a promotion.
Yeah.
And you get a resentment over that. So these are common things that we get resentments for. And resentments are not out of the ordinary. They're something that happened to all of us. It's just a matter of knowing how to deal with them.
And a lot of us clearly don't. What are some of the things we do if we're feeling resentment? Could you share some examples? I'm assuming anger is definitely one of them, but I'm sure there's a lot more that people do. What else?
Well, we take it too personally, whatever was said to us or done to us, we take it too personally because 98% of the time, people are not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves and probably about their resentment.
Yeah.
So people just aren't thinking about you per se. So it wasn't a personal slight, whatever happened. For example, I used to get upset about things from childhood that my parents didn't act a certain way, and I resented them for that. Well, they were just being themselves, and I didn't know that at the time. So I had to let go of wanting them to be a certain way, and with that went the resentment.
And
another thing we do is we blame the offender for our feelings.
Yep.
This is a good one. We can either blame the offender or we can look at our role in the situation, which is looking at our unenforceable rules and our unrealistic expectations. Let me talk about expectations a minute.
Sure.
An expectation is a resentment waiting to happen. And so if you can keep that in mind and try and keep your expectations to a minimum, anytime you set an expectation out, you're not looking at who and what is going on in the moment. So try and bring yourself to the moment.
Okay.
And look at the situation from that point.
All right.
The other thing is, oh, I'm sorry.
No, good. That's good. I like that one.
Yeah. The other thing is like just becoming aware of it, aware of unrealistic rules and unrealistic expectations. Here's a great example. I was common law married in the state of Colorado for 14 years. And then my then husband and I decided to get formally married with a ceremony because we wanted a party. So we got married with a minister and everything. Well, I thought that things would change and he would act differently now that we were married. He didn't change. And so the behavior I wanted changed specifically was him coming home at night after work instead of staying for beers with the guys. And he didn't come home right away. So I got angry. And by the time he got home, I was in a big twit and we had an argument over it every time. If I would have let go of that unrealistic expectation to expect that he would be with me in all his spare time, and my unenforceable rule, which was that the husband belongs with the wife at all times or when not busy. And if I would have just let those go and done things like had dinner with a friend or read a book, watched a movie, anything else to keep myself occupied, the fights wouldn't have happened.
But isn't there also a point of in a relationship, there should be a mutual understanding. So yes, he's entitled to his friend time but there's also wife time and companion time, which I have a feeling, I'm no judge if I don't know you, but maybe he wasn't giving you all of that because there should be a little bit of a compromise, right?
He wasn't. There needed to be a compromise. But in general, that's my example of the unrealistic expectation and unenforceable rule that I certainly was putting out there. But you're exactly right, Jill. And so that brings up the point of negotiating for our time and negotiating for likes and dislikes so that you can come to an agreement on things. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. A lot of it is about compromise, but you have to be willing to on both ends. So continue.
Well, the third thing that we do is we tell our tale of woe, right? We tell it over and over and over again to whomever will listen.
Yes. So true.
Yes. And so what we can do instead is sing the song of a hero. And how do you do that, you may ask? Well, ask and answer 3 questions, and I invite you to write them down because writing is very cathartic, very healing. And they are, what is the positive that came from my resentment? What is the positive thing that happened? What is the lesson that I learned? And what about this resentment can I be grateful for? What can I be grateful for?
Yeah.
When you ask and answer these questions, it just flips things around 180 degrees. And you become inspired and empowered. And you become inspiring and empowering to the person who is singing their tale of woe. You give them the energy and the confidence to sing a song of a hero. So you can be a great example in this situation. And when that happens, it's so much easier to let go of the resentment, when you have done that step, when you have sung the song of a hero,
Mm-hmm.
it really helps. And those are the three things that you can do when you have a resentment.
Wow. All right, we got to work on that for sure. A lot of us has resentment. And let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is it normal to still have resentment? Can you ever fully get rid of resentment, or are there ways to just keep it curbed in a sense?
You can get rid of it entirely,
Okay.
that you don't think of it anymore. But usually, or sometimes what happens, between sometimes and often, you might have thoughts of resentment come up again for you. What I have found when that happens is it's coming up for me to look at a deeper level
Mm-hmm.
so that I can heal at a deeper level. So
Interesting.
things do come up, and new situations present themselves. For example, I spent 30 years angry and
Mm.
resentful over my upbringing. And then I forgave my parents for my upbringing. Well, other things came up after that happened in present day. And so I had to go back and revisit my resentment that I had for them because that came up too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of relooking and relooking and relooking and coming to that decision again and again. Each time that you do, you will know a peace and freedom from that resentment that you didn't know before.
Wow.
That's the payoff.
Wow. Yeah. We can only, get help with this because it has. Tell me something about your clients that you work with on resentment and the benefits of what they're experiencing now compared to how they were when they first started working with you.
Okay. I have Susie. Susie came to me very upset over her father, very resentful because he never loved her. Never loved me, she said.
Oh.
Well, we started working together, and after a while, she realized that he did love her in the only way he knew how.
Mm.
And why she realized that was she remembered a situation with him on Valentine's Day. He would come put a box of candy at each child's room at
Yep.
their door. And then for his wife, he would put a big heart box of candy at her door. And so
Oh.
Susie realized that he did, in fact, love her and her siblings and her mother.
Mm.
And he was just doing it the only way he knew how.
Yep.
When she realized that, all of a sudden the resentment was gone and the need to forgive was gone because there was never anything there to forgive to begin with. That's the realization that she came to, that she had carried that all those years, and she really didn't need to have done that. But time heals, and we get our impressions of things, usually at a younger age, that
Mm-hmm.
we carry with us. And not until we get older and more mature and can look at things in that light with different set of eyes that we see things differently.
Got it. Yeah. It's all about the new mindset, but it takes a while for some people.
It does. It's a process. It actually starts with becoming aware.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first stage that happens, is we become
The
aware
awareness.
of
Okay.
our resentment and our why and all of that stuff. We become aware of how we're reacting to the situation. And then we become willing.
Wow. Yep.
We become willing to do whatever we need to do to get to peace, is what our final goal is.
And there's light at the end of that tunnel. You are living proof of this. You've went through this. You are you've done so much, and you've been with us for a long time, and we've gotten to know each other personally. So I know your personal story, which I know you share with everyone, but it is possible to get over. And any tips or techniques to other people at home listening today on how they could do it too?
Use compassion. And I want to tell you a quick story.
Sure.
I was 3 years sober, and I was doing what I call a self-appraisal. This time, though, I was looking at the ways in which my behavior had led to the demise of my relationships with a few men in my life. And what I realized pretty quickly was I used to get drunk and yell and scream at them that they were worthless and would never amount to anything. Oh, I was horrified to remember this. And the thing is, I didn't even mean it about them.
Yeah.
Jill, that was a huge aha moment because it stood to reason and it was logical that all those years my father called me worthless and said I would never amount to anything. He didn't mean it about me. He meant it about himself. That was life changing.
Changing for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Suddenly I saw him as a fellow human being, not my father, just another person who was wounded, and I had compassion for his wounds. Then, over the period of the next year, I went back and forth with compassion and anger until one day I realized I had forgiven him.
Yeah.
And I believe what happened is by showing compassion and feeling compassion, I created a space in my heart into which forgiveness could flow.
Oh,
Isn't that a nice thought?
that really is a great thought for sure. Ah, wow. Yeah. I mean, life is hard. Life has hurt so many. And I know, unfortunately, you lost your parents. What was it, last year, or is it going on 2 years with
2020.
COVID? And the pandemic took so many people and made us
Yes.
realize, I mean, the truth, right? About we need to start living a better life. Why not? We deserve it, right?
We deserve to live in peace with happiness.
Yeah.
Be happy and free from resentment.
And for those out there who may be listening, dealing with resentment now, what would you say to them? Still a little too shy, a little shy. That's okay.
Well, try and look with compassion. Try and consider if this person is wounded in any way. Try, if you're angry at yourself, if you're resentful at yourself, try and consider compassion for yourself. We expect ourselves to know all these things right off the bat, but it's a learning process, and the key word there is process. So it happens, and over time, we get better and better, and we learn more and more and understand more and more. But what we understand today doesn't mean that we were supposed to understand it 3 years ago when we copped a resentment for Mark. You know, it just doesn't. So we have to cut ourselves some slack and forgive ourselves because we didn't know something, because now we know it. So now we can move forward.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. And in moving forward, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I know you've seen it, and your clients experience it. And did you want to share a little about maybe how some of your books could actually help people with this, or what else did you have in mind? Because we have like 6.5 minutes left. I want to make sure we're covering everything, hon.
Yes, I'll do the books in a second, but I never finished with Susie.
Yes, I'm
And
sorry.
no, I veered off on something. Not only was the resentment gone and no need for forgiveness, but she found that her relationship with men improved. So she was no longer afraid of them. And it just changed her life. As far as books that could help you, The Art of Forgiveness, A Promise of Peace. It goes into my story about
Oh,
how I was taken to my bottom with my drinking over an unrequited love. And so I go through the process of what happened to me after that and how did I heal from that.
hmm.
I take you through the Yippee method, which
Yeah.
is it's a method of healing, and it's an acronym that stands for yearn, investigate, practice,
Yeah.
process, evolve, and empower. So we go through all of those things and we look at that resentment, we take it apart, we look at ourselves, and we look at what our needs are and our wants and our desires, and we see where things have fallen apart, and we apply gratitude for the things that did turn out right,
Yeah.
and we have compassion. Gratitude and compassion bring forgiveness.
Gratitude and compassion. What are some ways we could be more grateful, and what are some things we could do to help us all, become more grateful? Or is there little things we should do each and every day?
Yes, every morning, here's something you can do. Every morning, as you get your day started, sit down with a piece of paper and a pen or pencil and write down one thing you're grateful for and why.
Hmm.
The key is in the why, because I mean, you can be grateful that the birds are singing,
Mm-hmm.
but what does that have to do with anything? Well, it means you're alive. It means you can hear.
True.
You're grateful for those things. Each morning, if you do that after 3 weeks, 21 days, they say it takes to form a new habit. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can do that after 3 weeks, you will have formed a new habit and you'll see things with more gratitude.
I like that.
I want to share about this book. This
Sure.
book is a series of verses. And oh, look what I opened it up to.
Ah,
Visions of Gratitude. Can you see it? Yeah.
wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let me read it.
Go ahead.
Visions of Gratitude. When seen with eyes and heart that appreciate, everything around and within me becomes more pleasing, more beautiful.
Mm.
So it's a series of verses that start out in great angst with fear and terror and shame, and it goes to growth steps. Well, it goes to awareness and then growth steps, then healing things, and then we reach peace. And I want to share peace with you. This book has the stories behind all the gates. This is Promise of Peace.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
And the verse is, when I practice the principles of love for myself and others, the gates of my heart melt into the glow of dusk, and peace rises to greet me.
Mm.
This is a great book. Someone called it, well, this is what he said: the magnificence of this gem of a book
Mm.
cannot be overstated. I sensed a rush of love, acceptance, and understanding as I have seldom felt from any book before.
Wow. Wow.
This book will stretch your heart, affirm the staggering beauty of this world, and encourage you to realize that anything is possible.
Mm.
Those are a few of the reviews that I got on the book.
Beautiful. And if we want a copy, where can we find that?
You can find it on my website, carolyncjjones.com. On my website, you'll see my books, and you can either order directly from Amazon
Mm-hmm.
or you can order it from me and I will sign it and send it to you. It costs a little bit more because you've got to pay my postage, but that's the way you can get my book.
Perfect.
Both of them.
Thank you. And you're also active on Facebook. Tell us how we can find you there.
Carolyn C.J. Jones. That's me. And I'm not on my business page much.
It's on your personal, right?
I'm on my personal page.
And don't forget Carolyn C.J. Jones, everyone, right?
That's right. Just friend me.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here, for enlightening us and bringing up the importance of resentment and how we can conquer all. We can all get through it. And sometimes you need a little guidance and a little help. CarolynCJJones.com. Check her out. Pick up her copy of her book. Both of them, and check her out on Facebook, Carolyn C.J. Jones. Again, we appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.